Hi, my name is Cherie Dacko. We are here in Sanford, Florida, in my studio, which is in the Hotchkiss building. It's a 130-year-old building, and it's where I've been working for about the last 4 or 5 years. It's a private studio, which means I get a whole lot of work done. So Wild Violet is one of my most recent. I do have a lot of faces in my paintings, and probably because after I got out of college, I was an art major at USF, I needed to work. And when you're an artist, it's a little more difficult. But I didn't have to work at McDonald's like everybody says. I was able to find a job as a retoucher, a photo retoucher, in a photography studio. So basically what I did was retouch everybody's face. We did a lot of senior portraits to make them look as smooth as a baby's bottom, as we used to say. Back then we did boudoir photography, which means I was doing a lot of airbrushing, rolls of fat and things like that. So it was kind of a cheap way of cosmetic surgery. But what that did is, over the years I worked there, it gave me, because I had so many thousands of faces that just came on my drawing board through the years, that it gave me a good sense of the proportion, of expression, of just shading, and it gave me the ability to push the aspects of a face and to keep it from going too cartoony, to where I could just twist it enough to where it still was recognizable but had a little bit more interest in it. And so this bending of the arms, the fingers, everything else that I do in a lot of my paintings, I call it bent realism, and it just reflects a little bit of a bent way looking at the world too. And I've been accused of that sometimes. So we could talk about the painting a little bit. I'm the family genealogist, so I've discovered a lot of things lately, and one of them is that we have a lot of relations in Ireland. And so I wanted to do something that kind of reflected some of that history. At the same time, I wanted to put my own flair into it. So what I typically do is, in my brain, I'll just put a lot of different objects together that don't necessarily go together in real life, but once they are figured out on a computer, I will change, adjust, change the color, cut off pieces, and then I end up with a composition, and I just get a feeling of, okay, this is it. Now, as it's being painted, it still goes through a lot of changes. Different things can morph into other things. I can leave things out. There is, I'll explain what a few of these objects are, and you won't be able to recognize them probably, but once I point out what they are, it's easy to see. This is actually an upside down, I think it's called devil flower, but it's a very devilish looking flower, which is kind of a dichotomy, but to me it was real interesting, and there was just so much exquisite detail in it. And I had it all figured out for another painting where it was actually flipped around and there was a figure coming out this way. This, to me, made it so much more interesting. It just became a shape instead of a flower. And what's funny is I just had this in a show, and there were a number of people that took them forever to see that there was even a face in it, which I thought was very strange, but you never know how people are going to respond to your work, and I actually love when people do. And I learned something about them as well. So they'll sometimes interject their own story into it. So this is a image I've used before in a painting. It's just an old wreck of a building that was overgrown. I have another painting that's under the water, and there's a whole lot of sea creatures around it, kind of strange sea creatures, and another woman. But she has a seahorse in her ear. That's a whole nother story. But I love this imagery. This is the green of Ireland, you know, the cliffs, just the landscape. This is, you know, staircase kind of symbolizes a journey, and it's an ancient connection that I have. I don't know that there's anybody over there now that I could relate to. I don't know if I have any direct relatives there, is what I mean. The face, I wanted to just put a hint of a face. And again, it's one of those things where you get familiar with the face, and if a line is just slightly off, excuse me, it can push the whole appearance of the face out of whack. And so it's funny as you go around looking at portraits, when you have a sense of balance and of the actual physical measurements between things, if it's slightly off, it can just throw the whole portrait off. If you're trying to have it actually look like somebody, it doesn't take much to throw the whole thing off. So I try very carefully to have everything in proportion, and the face literally is always the first thing I start on in a painting. Once I get that done, the rest of the painting is just gravy to me. And I really think that goes back to all those years of all those photographs that I worked with, all those faces that I saw, all the different moods, and even restoring antique photographs, having to rebuild faces, but they had to look like who they were. And so that was really a tremendous exercise for me as a painter to have that experience. I think that actually helped me more than my painting classes, to be honest. So thanks so much for spending a little time up here, and now I think I'll get back to painting.